initial mindset was that it'll be tricky to accomplish our previous goals of trying to qualify, right? Because we're coming into an open qualifier with a lot of good teams, with no practice, with a new player, right? So it's very tricky to sit and think, oh, you know, we will do this. It was more like, okay, let's just try our best, and at the same time, we have to use as much time as possible to try and practice in efficient ways, whether that's through reviews, whether it's through like talking through things as a team, and just making sure that we're not trying to do too much before open qualifiers, but also spending enough time so that the boot camp is worth it, right? We're all here to play.
I wouldn't say I was nervous or felt any kind of emotion like that. For the most part, I'm someone who just takes things as they come, so I don't waste time feeling nervous, feeling anxious. When the day comes, it's time to play.
Open qualifiers in general are really tricky. Because you have to, you can't rely on anti-strap, you have to rely purely on being focused, and all 5 people have to be focused, right? You can't rely on a coach to give input because they're not allowed in the room. It's very tricky to remain focused throughout the day, right? Because you're often playing kind of 6, maybe 7 best of ones on the first day, and then obviously on the second day it's a bit more relaxing and you have only a certain amount of games, right? But still, it's a lot of pressure on players to perform.
So in our first match we played Sashi Esport. I guess it's technically second round. We got a bye in the first round. As for Sashi, we weren't too worried. It's a team we faced before, but it was a new look for them. They made some pickups recently with Fessor, a former Endpoint player, as well as Nico and Borup, who came from OG and Astralis respectively. So obviously a far more experienced lineup. We knew that going into it. It ended up being on Ancient, which was a good map for us. It's a map we focused a lot on during the initial few days of boot camp, but at the same time we knew that it was a good map for them as well.
I think people are unsure of where we are as a team since the addition of Swicher, because they don't know much about him and how good he is. Just from the short time that we played, like playing Topar LAN and boot camp now, and
this entire run is a really good proving ground for us to see Swicher. But I mean, we're kicking off the pistol round already, and Endpoint starting on the CT side here of Ancient, a map which historically has been pretty good for them. We've not seen Swicher play it yet. We didn't see them play it over in Turkey in the land they want.
Khalil rattling off shots. Swicher trying to contend on the other side, and he's landed a nice headshot with the Deagle. Borup next up. Another headshot comes through. Nico pushing onto the bomb site. Swicher's still here holding, and he's the last one left.
Before the first game in the boot camp was actually pretty good, I'd say. We were honestly feeling pretty confident for most of the morning. Sadly, with the challenger mode difficulties that happen every single major cycle recently, it kind of killed our momentum a little bit. I think people started to get a little bit tired with all the delays. When we checked in and when we actually logged onto the server to play, there was something like 4 hours, maybe 3.5 hours. It went from being quite confident to feeling a little tired to then trying to re-energize ourselves, hype ourselves up.
That could decide the fate of this game and the fate of these 2 teams in the first open qualifier, for the very first CS2 Major.
Tech9 said he managed to take some mid-control, pushing Endpoint back. Nico continuing to be this active presence here in the cave. Got another 2 kills. Swinging out, he should be able to get much more. Third comes through. Slend stuck in the corner, forced to pick a fight. Sashi
Nico
now in the lead.
For some reason, there's always delays, right? It's the biggest tournament of the game. It's the biggest tournament that CS2 has had so far, and there's 3-hour delays. There's people cheating in the qualifier, obviously, and then some teams get sort of special treatment over others because of bad luck, I suppose.
Considering the utility, Endpoint having to drop down onto Galil's. Not able to get any nades at all. They've got single AK in play on Surreal. Spam.
Switch again, so much pressure being put down towards Endpoint. You can see Sashi already setting themselves up to disrupt Endpoint. 3 frags in the blink of an eye. Endpoint, they've got nothing.
I mean, it looks almost like Sashi are the ones executing onto Endpoint as CTs. Had a full nade set to take complete lane control there, and now they've got map point. 1 round away from being knocked out, sent to the next qualifier.
So, initial thoughts of the first qualifier was that
Sashi are going to be knocking out Endpoint already in this open qualifier.
I think the game went okay.
bro, we got like no warm-up. We had to wait like all day. It was just one of those games, you know. We vetoed onto their best map and they won. It happens, best of 1 CS, you know, like I don't think they're a very good team, and I think we still should have won, but
ultimately we just made too many mistakes. We obviously reviewed it, and it was just a case of sort of missing utility, not as clear communication as we wanted to be, and that was sort of the game for us. It was a series of individual errors, and we're looking to fix them.
When it comes to Swicher's first officially on Endpoint, I think he performed quite well. There were a few key mistakes I think that he made. Obviously everyone makes individual mistakes, but for me it's actually really nice to work with him, because immediately after the game he comes and asks me, he asks Max, what could I have done differently? Do you have any feedback? Do you have any criticism? Which is really refreshing, and a lot of young players, it's something that I think is lacking.
Even though we got smashed in the first one, which was pretty annoying, and I think that was not the real Endpoint, and I'm quite excited to play these next 3 qualifiers, hopefully not all of them, just one. Show people that we can play and we're not just taking the piss. The main goal is these major qualifiers coming up in the next few days.